Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got Evan Steele on the podcast. He is the founder and CEO of Rater8, which is a reputation management platform used by medical practices, physicians' offices, et cetera, helping them grow and scale their reputation online. Really interesting episode. Evan is a two-time founder. We talk about his electronic medical record startup that he created in the late 90s, which he sold in 2012, and then took a few years off and then had a light bulb moment in 2015 and decided to start Rater8. One of the interesting things we talk about is his company is fully remote. So we talk a little bit about near the end of the episode about how to create a really strong, growing culture in a fully remote company. So this is an awesome episode. So let's get Evan on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Evan, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. Good to see you.
You too, Justin. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. So maybe give everybody that's listening and watching a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
All right, so I'm here in, as you can see from the reflection, in sunny New Jersey. I'm founder and CEO of Rater8, which is a healthcare reputation management patient feedback company. And I started the company in 2015, so we had our 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh, congrats. That's awesome. And I guess talk me through a little bit about kind of like how, like obviously like they'll hear people's kind of origin stories and how they kind of started businesses or even how they kind of came about with kind of thinking about this. Because I know you and I've met before, and this is not your first rodeo when it comes to starting a business. So maybe walk us through a little bit of your early career and how you kind of thought about being like, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur.
I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur ever since I was a little kid. Whether I shoveled driveways, I had a newspaper route, I do gardening for people, mowing lawns, always had my own business, always wanted to be self-sufficient. In college, I owned a DJ business, so I bring all my equipment to parties, which was probably one of my more fun jobs I've ever had.
I bet.
Then I graduated college, and I was inclined financially, numbers-wise, and I remember my father, who was an attorney, said, you'd be good at banking, investment banking. And back then, we're talking late 80s, early 90s, it was a really hot industry. I had gone to business school in the early 90s. I went into the investment banking world. And turns out, after all those years of wanting to be an investment banker, I ended up hating it. It's just crazy hours. I remember my first Father's Day, I got paged and I had to go to the office and work till 3 a.m., right? So I said, this is not for me. And I went to work with my brother, who just graduated fellowship from a pediatric ophthalmology fellowship at Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia. And he was a year or two into his practice. His practice was exploding. He's all over the place, has no time for anything. I said, tell you what, I'll get out of banking. I'll run your business and we'll grow it from just you and one employee that he had, and we'll grow it into a business. I'll take care of the business side. And so fast forward, that was 94. So fast forward a few years, and now we have 4 offices, 30 employees. There's paper charts all over the place. Doctors are in one office, patients come in another office. Charts are being faxed. Charts are in doctors' trunks. We had a big problem with paper charts. So we said, well, we looked at some electronic health record systems and found out that they're all data entry intensive, and felt it would slow the doctors at his practice down. So we said, let's start an EHR company and make it real easy to use. So I hired a programmer, and we started SRS Health, an EHR company. And that just took off, right? We went to the first conference, was the American Academy of Ophthalmology. We got some clients. Fast forward from, that was 97 to 2012, we had 5,000 doctors and 20,000 users on the platform. And then I sold my company in 2012, sold that company. So just the moral of the story is we had a problem, and kind of necessity is the mother of invention. So we're going to fix the problem. Let's hire a programmer and get started. And by the time we sold the company, we had, I think it was 58 programmers and almost 200 employees.
Oh, wow. So you were kind of running and helping run your brother's practice, saw a problem, built, and then I guess how did you kind of go from that, like, hey, let's start this business and kind of solve our problem, to let's just go all in and scale this? Because obviously there's a different mindset of having a small physician practice where it's somewhat manageable, to then scaling a software business where you can run as fast as you can and raise a bunch of money. Like, how did that all kind of start? Because obviously the outcome sounded like it was a great outcome, but talk us through kind of that overnight success, which typically takes 5-10 years of hard work.
Yeah, we got our first few million, with 3-4 million in revenue, and pretty much, just with bootstrap. Just my brother and I invested some money, not a lot. And then we took on an investor just for a little bit of money, and never really dipped into it, but it allowed us to be more aggressive, hire a sales manager, scale out a sales team. It was just the school of hard knocks, like something I've never done before. So you get a client, we love the software, let's go to the American Academy of Ophthalmology. This was the fall of 1998, and have a booth. Met some people coming by the booth, and we ended up making some sales. So now you got to start building, right? You got to hire implementation people. I remember I was like, this used to be with Windows servers, Windows NT servers, and desktop computers, literally at my kitchen table, creating networks for our first clients. And then I drop off the computers from my car in their office, and we plug them in. So first you do everything, and then you start hiring people, and you just build out a team, and then you get lucky, right? Just hiring the right CTO, hiring the right chief operating officer. This guy named Bob Harmony came. He had a lot of experience running large support teams. He worked for a company called Medical Manager, and he had 72 people report to him in the support area. So he was like a perfect guy to help scale up as our support team and ops teams. So just hiring the right people, getting people who are much better at doing support than I was, and really just delegating to them, and you say, here's your budget, and if you need money, let me know, and let's hire the right people, keep our clients happy, and grow. And then just getting a great sales team to sell the software.
And how did you? Because a lot of times, I work with a lot of like very early stage startup founders, and some people are very control freaks, right? They like to control everything, and so they're very reluctant to hire people that are maybe smarter than them, or just kind of really let go of the reins, even if they do hire people. So how did you kind of get to the point where you were like, okay, I need to hire people that can take over something, own it, so that I don't have to worry about it, and I trust that they are doing right for the business, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, how do you start to release the reins a little bit, when you start hiring people?
Very hard to do, and that's the one thing, you're right, that gets in the way of scalable growth. Is the CEO says, I know everything, I don't want to take any advice. So first, if you have investors or a board, take advice, listen to people. But I take a hybrid approach. I'll take Bob Harmony, the operator, the COO. We hired him. He was just so good at everything he did. Just Bob, you build up, we call him Bob the Builder. You build up that side of the company, and I didn't have to worry at all, in great hands. And then there are some areas that you might hire the wrong person, and I need to be involved. So on one hand, you could be accused of being a micromanager because you want something that's not working right to be right. On the other hand, other folks might say, this guy's a great CEO. He's out of my hair. It doesn't even bother me. It lets me do what I want, gives me all the budget I need to complete my mission. So it's a hybrid approach. And I always, even today at Rater8, I'm always spend my time and focus on areas micromanaging where it needs to, until we get a great, perfect team in place.
Got it. So let's talk about Rater8. So it sounds like you sold SRS Health back in 2012, and then what did you do? And did you just kind of go sit on a beach for a while and then realize, hey, I want to get back and start something? But how did that happen?
So my wife and I, we spent time. We did some traveling. We were reading books, riding bikes. I love being with my wife, but like I just need something that's much more engaging. And just like starting a software company and computers, that's always been engaging. So we actually checked into a hotel in Prague. Nice hotel, 5-star hotel. The check-in person, whose name was Federico, and that's our mascot, the little bee here. This is Federico.
Okay, that's awesome.
Federico gave me and my wife and me a really bad check-in experience. And I remember thinking, oops, I got my screen here. And I remember thinking, I would love to rate Federico and provide feedback specific to him. And I don't want to pull a manager out and complain about Federico uncomfortably right in front of him, with a manager. I did get a survey from this hotel after. It was like 50, 60 questions, nothing about Federico specifically. So I'm like, how does this hotel know what, is it what Federico's doing, and if he's giving the art of the warm welcome to the guests? So that really bothered me. And then I remember we went from Prague, and then we went to Vienna. And I remember I woke up in the middle of the night, and they came to me and said, I got to start a company to rate people, to make sure that if somebody walks into a business, they're going to have a good experience, and they're going to give the business owners, all the data they need to improve their customer service. It was the model of Uber. I don't know if you're old enough, Justin, to have taken taxi cabs.
Yeah.
Those guys were the worst. I've lived 8 years in New York City. You'd get the taxi drivers would give you the worst service in the world.
Oh, right.
Same drivers became Uber drivers. Now they're like, because they're being rated, they're like, oh, here's a plug for your phone. Here's some water. Here's some gum. How can I be nice to you? So, and I was an early adopter of Uber, right? So I loved that I could rate the driver, and I loved that I got better service. So I figured we could do the same with other people, not just drivers, but hotel check-in, check-out people. Our first client was a hotel. We went to a hospitality convention, and it turned out it was very difficult to interface with the hospitality POS systems. We had operators of hotels like a Hilton. Oh, I love this Rater8. I want to buy it, but they couldn't get Hilton to open up their big database and send us guest data. So I had obviously many 15 years experience in healthcare at the time, and I knew how all the interfaces worked with the Epics and the Athenas and the NextGens and all the practice management software vendors. And it's the same thing. You walk into a medical office, it's the same thing. You get greeted by somebody, and how is that greeting? Is there that art of the warm welcome when you walk into an office, especially far off satellite offices where an office manager has no idea what's going on in the satellite office? So spent all my energy and time going to healthcare conferences, focusing on healthcare, dipping into all the contacts and all the folks that I knew from SRS, from the EHR days, and got a really good start to the company and started building it up. And now we have over 1,000 clients. 20,000 plus providers on the platform. So built a nice business just by starting out with patient feedback about people. And then later on, 7 years ago, we added the reputation management, and took on a life of its own, right? Reputation management is a hot topic. I would say surveys and patient satisfaction are a little more banal. So we lead with healthcare reputation management, but truly in our DNA is patient feedback and patient satisfaction. That's right in our software. It's part of our DNA.
So when you were starting the business, so it was literally like if I was a patient at a medical practice, I would get access to your system, or because this is probably what you started 2015. So would you get an app? Like, would you download an app as a patient to a dentist office, or how did it all work in the very beginning?
100% web-based. So
okay.
The first thing we built was an integration engine. So I knew the importance of that. So we integrated with the practice management system, which is the POS system in healthcare. Patient would check out. We get a message from the practice management system. Patient checked out. Here's the email address. Here's their phone number. We'd send them a text or an email asking them to, complete a survey, and then later on complete a survey and/or post an online review. And it was all web-based. So you just click on the link, and your Safari browser on your iPhone would come up, and you could provide that feedback.
And then you mentioned that the survey that you received from the Prague was or hotel in Prague was 50 questions, which obviously is and wasn't specific to, I guess, the people that you interacted with. Was your kind of model very much like, hey, you interacted with Sally at the front desk or Jason or however it works, and then they would be able to get ratings, and then is that kind of how it worked in the beginning?
Yeah. So remember, the very first client was this hotel called the Leo House. It was a boutique hotel. I think they might not be in business after COVID hit, but it was rating the person at the front desk. And now with medical practices, we have the ability. So there's a digital footprint when a patient checks in. There's a digital footprint of who checked in the patient. So if Mary or Joe at the front desk checked in the patient, that's inside the database, and we know that. And to the extent we could get that, so when the patient checks in or checks out, we could get that information sent over to Rater8. We could have the patient rate that person who checked them in, the person who checked them out, and also the doctor.
Interesting. And then what does obviously, like an Uber, you get a score as a driver, right? Even riders get scores. So for kind of the user, so if somebody's listening to this and they have a medical practice and they're, really thinking about how they can, keep up to date with their staff, like what is the use case for the business? How are they using that data from a kind of rating perspective? And then, would love to kind of dig into more of the reputation side of it.
So I'm a data guy. I told you right at the beginning. I majored in finance undergrad. Business school is finance and accounting. So anything that's a big numbers, data is so important. So we really, everything hinges on, everything hinges on or rests on our benchmarking report. We have almost 27 million data points, healthcare data points of patient feedback, whether it's for the doctor, the staff, or just questions about their operations, like staff friendliness, office cleanliness, how's the parking, how is my appointment scheduling experience. So we have this huge database of benchmarks, and every practice could take their questions and benchmark their practice against the benchmark. But digging down further, just looking at your practice doesn't help. If you're looking for check-in experience, right, you want to see by location. So how do all my 5 office locations score? And then if one's scoring much lower than the other, you got to look into that check-in experience at the office that has the lowest score. And then it becomes very easy to just kind of read the comments, figure out what's upsetting patients so much, set up a remediation plan, set goals for your staff, say, hey, look, next quarter, if you put on the charm and we get higher check-in experience scores, you hit the benchmark or you hit this level, there's going to be a bonus or a pizza party or some award or something. You can't improve something if you can't measure it. So what we do is enable our clients to measure all around their organization different cuts in different ways so they could identify pockets of dissatisfaction and address those pockets.
Interesting. And then do you tied it back to like increase in revenue? Because obviously if people are happy with their experience, likely they're going to go back to that doctor's office if they need to go again, and or they're going to, refer that doctor to, their friends, family, et cetera. So have you been able to see a correlation between, better scores or increase in kind of those scores to then increase in revenue for the practice?
Yeah, so we have a lot of case studies on the reputation side. You build their online reputation. It's word of mouth marketing, just for us old timers, or at least me. Word of mouth I think is more powerful than any marketing, right? So just going into a practice, being delighted, leaving saying, oh, you got to use this doctor, or your friend, let's say you went to an orthopedic surgeon, your friend says, oh, my hip's hurting, you got to see this doctor, right? That social proof is so important. Also important online reputation. It provides a lot of social proof, but if you have a friend or a family member that's telling you got to see this doctor, that's so valuable. And we see clients who are focused on our benchmarking, focused on practice improvement. We see their scores, trends improve all the time. Like, the trends are always improving over time, and that just results in better word of mouth marketing. Better word of mouth referrals and more revenue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it seems like every practice has a 4 or 5 star, and I don't know how it all works on the back end, but I would rather take the advice of somebody that I know versus 5,000 5-star reviews.
Right. So what happens is the trick here is if I need, let's use the orthopedic surgeon, my hip hurts. What do? I ask some friends. So my friends will tell me, use this doctor, another friend, this doctor. I might go in Facebook group. They'll tell me who I should use. I might go to the insurance guide and see who takes my insurance. I get a list of doctors. I go to my PCP. Trust my PCP. Here's some doctors. Now I have a list of 3 or 4 or 5 doctors. Which one do I choose? So that's where the reputation management comes in. I'm comfortable with all 5. It used to be I'd call the first one. They don't have an appointment that's convenient, or it's a little further drive. Now I go to the second one. I got an appointment and it's nearby and a good time. Book an appointment. But that's changed now. So now people look at the ratings for each of those doctors. And if you get a doctor who has 3.8 stars, like I wouldn't eat at a restaurant with 3.8 stars, let alone trust my health and life. I'm not going. I don't care how convenient the appointment is. Next doctor, I have to wait longer. It's a further drive, but they got 4.9 stars and 89 reviews or 125 reviews. I don't care how inconvenient it is. I'm going to that doctor. And that's how this all ties into online reputation.
Got it. Interesting. And I guess so obviously you've hit your 10-year anniversary with the business. I guess what's kind of the next step or the next phase of growth for Rater8?
So I hate to say it because it sounds so cliche, but this AI is taking over our business. So like just typing your browser is, pick your doctor, is Dr. John Smith, whatever your doctor's name is, a good doctor? Like that's people. So Google is known as a search engine. They're thinking it now as an answer engine. They're asking questions. Is so-and-so a good doctor? Right? Is this practice a good practice? And Google now, instead of these organic search results, they're providing these AI overviews. It's almost like you don't need to go to the bio page of the doctor. They just summarize everything and all the reviews and everything all in one place. So just, feeding into the AI, generative AI search results is like kind of the next stage of what we're doing. Plus, we have now, remember I said we have millions of these data points. We have like between online reviews and internal service, we have over 30 million data points, and a big client has tens or hundreds of thousands of data points. How do you make sense of all that? It's so much to read. So we have AI summaries. You just say, okay, I want to see this doctor for this month. You click the summary button, and you don't have to read all the comments. It'll summarize exactly what patients are saying, categorize it by category, like bedside manner, time spent with the patient, waiting room time, categorizes it, summarizes it. So things like that, advances in AI are really helping companies like Rater8 both make their practices and their doctors more visible online, better in online search, generative AI search, and also be able to improve the level of patient care by finding it easier now, instead of having to reading through comments, have these nice summaries that telling them summarizes and saves them a tremendous amount of time. So it makes it easier to improve patient care, patient satisfaction.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, just kind of obviously AI is on the tip of everybody's tongue. Everybody's putting AI into everything. I was going to ask you kind of how you guys are leveraging it for your business, but also internally, but also kind of how you're leveraging it, I guess, in your platform and then also in your business. So, in your platform, it sounds like you've got some, AI integrations that allow, if I'm searching for a doctor, it gives me more summary, so I don't have to read through all the comments. How are you guys using it maybe in Rater8 to streamline your business operations?
So we use AI in the software. We also use it to generate responses to Google. So we get tons of Google reviews, and you should respond to them. It's just healthy to do that. Good from an SEO perspective, and good for patient-doctor engagement, relations. And we have AI will read a comment and then in a HIPAA-compliant manner respond to the patient with an AI-generated response. That saves up just a tremendous amount of time. And also it keeps the HIPAA compliance and quality of response consistent for a practice. So we use AI that way. We use it to do our sentiment scoring. So there's just lots of ways we use AI in the software in our business. So it's almost like a Manhattan Project. Our investors, Elsewhere Partners, one of their big pushes is to have their portfolio companies apply AI, different agents throughout their business to make us more efficient. So we're already using on the coding side, on the development side, we're using AI tools and constantly experimenting with more. And I don't want to give away our secret sauce, but there are so many other ways that we can use and are starting to use AI to just become operationally more efficient. And also just like Zoom, right? We just had an executive meeting call. No one took notes. We used to have someone take notes. Zoom sends a beautiful summary, next steps, who's doing what was discussed. Like,
Right.
what a great time saver. So if somebody who missed the meeting, they could read it, and they're now up to date. They don't have to sit there and watch a recording, of a half hour, an hour meeting. There's just stuff like that, just summarizing meetings, just making everybody much more efficient.
Yeah. And knowing kind of your elsewhere backer, I guess I'm curious, with this initiative, are you able to share insights? Because obviously they've got a number of portfolio companies. So, things that you're doing inside Rater8, even though you're in a different industry than maybe some of their cyber plays, what are you able to kind of share insights and back and forth to say, hey, this worked for us, you should try it here, and how does that work?
Yeah, totally. They have part of their operating team that there's people who are just focused on AI, and they know all the platforms and the consultants and who's doing what, and we have meetings with them and we discuss and then we try to cross-pollinate. But yeah, there's that central person, actually two people are working on this, that work with the portfolio companies trying to figure out what's working best and then spread the best practices among the portfolio companies. Yep.
Got it. I'm curious to shift gears a little bit. What's the difference, or what have you seen as different starting a business, like SH or SRS back in the late 90s to starting a business in 2015, and even thinking about starting a business today? Like, what are some of the challenges, things that are similar or different? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, different. Like I swore myself. I'm not. EHRs became after the ARRA, American Reinvestment Recovery Act, that Obama signed in January 2009. They started regulating and creating standards for EHRs, and it was highly regulated. We had 13 developers before the regulations, and when we sold the company, just a few years later, we had 58, all doing the government's bidding. So I promised myself that my next business, I'm not going to do something that's regulated. So it's a real pleasure just saying, oh, what do I want to do today? And not having some specs from some government agency that says this is what your software should look like. So that's been a change. Obviously, just I've made so many mistakes the first time around, so things accelerated and went faster this time. Just knowing what to do, I still don't know what I'm doing, but knowing what to do more so than I did 20 years ago, the first business. And it's also just a very different business. That was a client server, so we had Rater SRS on 20,000 computers, and we'd have to do upgrades. It'd take a while. We'd have to upgrade 20,000 different computers. You could imagine the workload with that.
Yeah.
Rater8's pure SaaS-based, cloud-based platform. So when we have an upgrade, we flip a switch, deploy the new upgrade, and everybody's upgraded at once. So it's a lot easier doing business that way. You're not supporting Windows computers and installations and bugs, and if you have to fix a bug, we just fix it instead of deploying it to all these computers.
Right.
So I feel because of that, it's much easier to build a business today with these web tools and web platforms than it was in the old client server era. Also, sales. Like the sales team was constantly living. I used to live on airplanes. Every big demo, I'd be there. You'd have to be in person. Now everything is just sold from your living room. All the sales process, all the support, everything is done from your living room. It's easier to find employees. We were in the New York metro area. My old company, so we had to hire people within like a 30, 40-mile radius, and so it was expensive and it was limited. You had to find someone in that little area. Now our head of sales from Kalispell, Montana, right? Like he's amazing. He's great. Ryan is awesome. And it would have been very difficult to find Ryan if we were limited to a geographic area. So it's easier finding talented people. If you're truly remote, which we are, I think it's easier to retain your best people because remote jobs are not as easy to come by these days, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of companies are calling their employees back. So having a remote business, you lose a lot in terms of, the coffee room and the chatter and sometimes you get inspiration just by being around people. But if you work on it and you work on the culture and you build a great team, I think it's much easier today to hire teams than it was 20 years ago. So a lot of things going our way, wins at our back to create, start up, and run a business, both from a technology and an employee, HR perspective.
Yeah. How do you maintain the culture in a remote first company? Because obviously you've grown this to be, a large number of people. So how do you kind of maintain that culture and maintain that spontaneity of ideas and things like that? Because it's not as easy, when you're not in the same building.
Yeah, it's not easy, but we do a really good job. So there's a company called Great Place to Work, right? And they give you an award so 91% of our employees rated us a great place to work. So why? Because they love working here and they love the remote aspect and they do love the culture. We have happy hours, monthly town halls. Each team has their own happy hours once a month. So they all kind of, chat and swap stories, right? So that creates some camaraderie. We have IRL, which is in real life, once a year, the whole company, everybody flies to. Last year we did it in Florida, in Clearwater. It was by Tampa. We went to a resort, and like everybody was there, and that was just a great bonding experience. For 2-3 days, everyone's together. So doing things like that, contests, like if the sales team, they meet a certain goal, it's Taco Tuesday, so they all get their Uber Eats card and everybody gets tacos, order in for lunch. So just trying our best to keep some togetherness and camaraderie. And the funniest thing is, I don't know how tall you are, Justin. I have no idea. You go to the IRL, and you see people you never saw, and you're like, you're 6'2", like it is the funniest thing. You don't realize how tall people are. So anyway, that goes a long way. That once a year meeting also goes a long way. And then the last thing is we have clusters of people. So we have a lot of people who work in Tampa. We have people in the New York area. We have a lot of people in Austin. We have a bunch in Denver. So we pay as a company once a quarter, get together for dinner. You're not in the same department, but you're in the same company. We'll pay for it. Just get together for dinner, and we'll take care of that. So,
that's cool.
Yeah. So anything to get human interaction and people together helps us build and maintain a strong culture.
It's awesome. And I guess as we kind of wind down here, if we jumped on a podcast 12 months from now, like what are kind of 2-3 things that you would, like to see happen with the business, so that the podcast would be an upbeat one, the next 12 months?
I think any business person, would say they just want to see growth. That's the most exciting thing, is when you have an amazing product and more people want it. That's just validation that all that hard work that you did pays off. So we'd be looking for growth, and we're doing really well on the growth side. And the product. I'm a product person. I'm less of any other kind of. I'm the product person for the company, right? I started the company with that idea and directed the building of the product. So just adding on all these new features, all the AI features, our platform for just a narrow patient satisfaction reputation management is hugely robust. We've averaged 10 programmers over a year for the last 10 years, right? So that's 10 years, 10 programmers a year. It's 100 person years, development years in this software package. So it's a beast. It's amazing. And just to see that product grow and change and mature and, scale up, we keep getting larger and larger clients. Our largest client has 700 providers, thousands of listings that we manage for that client. That's just really super gratifying.
Awesome. Sounds like you've got a busy 12 months ahead of you. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
But Evan, it's been awesome to get to know you a little bit better and learn more about your journey. So I'll end the episode like I do with every episode with a 3-pack of questions here. So first question is, what's an influential book or podcast that you would recommend our listeners check out?
In my old office, when we had an office, I had a drawer outside my office with 2 books. So anytime a visitor would come, I'd give them one or both. Good to Great by Collins, just great book. Talks about level 5 leadership and what it takes to be a great leader. And the other one is Crossing the Chasm. I've actually read the book and completely changed my business's approach to going to market based on reading that book. So Crossing the Chasm would be the second one. Highly recommend it. And they're timeless.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Good to Great's one of the ones I pick up every couple of years, and it's I've read it probably a handful of times now, but it's the same thing, like just like Win Friends and Influence People. Always good ones. Favorite thing to do outside of the office?
Play pickleball. My wife and I are hooked.
I got into it last year a little bit. I played tennis a little bit growing up, so I had to learn the whole kitchen thing and not stepping in the kitchen. That was the hardest part to remember.
Yeah, no, it's great exercise. It's great mental acuity. It's very fast. You got to have great reflexes, and it's just fun. So yeah, exercising and having fun, which is to me an impossible combination. I always exercise, but didn't like it. This is great. I love it. So great sport.
Awesome. Perfect. Final question here. Favorite vacation spot?
I work so hard, so just any beach where I could just unwind is my favorite spot. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, Evan. I appreciate the time. If people want to reach out to you, learn more about Rater8 or anything about what you're up to, what's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, Rater8, RATER, number 8.com. You fill out a form online or just email info@rater8.com.
Got it. We'll have all that stuff in the show notes. Evan, great to connect. Appreciate your time. And yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nice chatting with you, Justin.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.